down? He's supposed to be.
He went down to.
Oh, sitting down. Okay, good. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Oh, you going stay. Yeah, okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order today's City Council meeting this Tuesday, April 23rd, 2019. We will now have a pledge and invocations, should he so choose, from Councilman Ledford. Please stand and address the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight I would like to introduce to you a District 4 resident who I've had the pleasure to meet through a forum at Chattanooga State that came up to me and had a remarkable conversation about her work in the community, moving here from Texas to play her role in promoting her church. This is Centel Alvarado, and she will be leading our invocation tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Ledford. If everyone can just bow their head. Lord, we just thank you for who you are. We thank you for your goodness and your faithfulness towards the city of Chattanooga. I thank you now for every single leader in this community in whatever capacity that they serve this community. I pray that you would strengthen them, God, that you would continue to put courage into them, Lord. And I just pray that you would give them creative ideas, that this city would be a city that is flourishing. I pray that you would raise up more community leaders to serve this community, to speak up on issues in this community. I pray that you would continue to lead us and guide us, Lord. And I just ask that you would just continue to move, and that this city would be a city that is growing and flourishing in every single way. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may like to, although all of our guests are always welcome, our special guests, I would like to make a special note that we have our newly elected University of Tennessee at Chattanooga UTC student government president in the house with us, Mr. Stan Settles.
Yay. Let's give him a round of applause, everybody. Stan the man. Okay, at this time, we will have a presentation, Healthier Tennessee Communities, from Councilwoman Coonrod. Move to approve the minutes. All in favor? Opposers, nay? Minutes approved. Now we will have Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. So we're presenting a proclamation to Russell Cleash. He's the regional director for the Governor's Foundation. Come up. And so this week is Healthier Chattanooga and Healthier Tennessee Week. And the proclamation reads as, whereas the health and well-being of our citizens is of great concern for Chattanooga and the state of Tennessee and Chattanooga. Whereas Chattanooga seeks to improve the health and well-being of its residents, and whereas our communities are where all Tennesseans work, worship, and learn, and whereas more physical activity, better nutrition, and less tobacco use are critical factors in improving overall health, and whereas by offering citizens choices and empowering them with the tools and resources to lead healthier lives, we can create a healthier and stronger Chattanooga. And whereas it is important that all Chattanooga citizens be informed and take responsibility for their health and wellness endeavors. And whereas Chattanooga wishes to acknowledge the strides this community is making to improving the health of its citizens, and whereas we are building a healthier Tennessee in more than 100 communities across this great state, including the Chattanooga neighborhoods of Bellevue Woods, Belvoir, Boyd Station, Glass Farms, Shepherd, and Southside. Now, therefore, I, Councilwoman Demetrius Coonrod, and Mayor Andy Burt of the City of Chattanooga do hereby proclaim April the 22nd through the 26th, 2019 as Healthier Chattanooga and Healthier Tennessee Week. And witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Chattanooga.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and thank you as far as to the City Council. You've seen me here a few times in front of you talking about when we first started this up back last May, and now coming around about a year. I want to emphasize to you again that we hear so often the term health and wellness, and it kind of comes in and out, and it just becomes kind of this bland kind of term. I want to stress to you again, when we're working on health initiatives within our neighborhoods, it has to be about community building. It has to be about relationship building, really building that sense of knowing your neighbor, knowing your neighbors, your businesses, your faith-based institutions. These things don't work alone, so we're so glad as far as for you to recognize this, make this proclamation, and to continue to support the efforts that are happening on the ground. So we'll have just a few examples. We just finished up 6 gardens there in Missionary Baptist Church on South Side, where that food will be going into a food pantry to feed a little over 200 to 300 people in that neighborhood. We have 4 different schools now that are having the Fresh Fruits and Vegetables program, so because of this initiative, over 2,200 students in Chattanooga will be receiving fresh fruits and vegetables at least twice a week for the entire year. We have now in Glass Farms and Boys Station, they just started up their Taylor Walk, which will happen that first Saturday of every month, where the community will walk up and down that Taylor Street to bring this visual presence of it's safe to be outside, it's great to be outside, it's great to be moving, but it's more great to get to know your neighbors. We just are starting up our garden there at Shepherd. Belvoir is starting up the Belvoir Bounty Program, where people will put out extra fruits and vegetables that they have every Saturday, and the people that are walking are welcome to get them. So to emphasize to you again, this is not a health initiative. This is a community, neighborhood, relationship building initiative, and we thank you so much for your support. Thank you.
Now, now at this time, I'll ask members of the YMCA of Greater Chattanooga to come forward. Are you just going to be the?
Representing.
Okay, you got to brought the best of the best. Okay. We are getting ready to present a proclamation to the YMCA of Greater Chattanooga. Whereas since 1983, April has been designated Child Abuse Prevention Month. 5 days of action is a special week set aside by YMCAs across the country in April to raise awareness and inspire adults to take action and to protect children from sexual abuse. Whereas there are 65,000 reports of child abuse filed in Tennessee each year, 500 cases were reported in 2017 alone in Chattanooga, with half of those reports being sexual abuse. Whereas each year, 5 days of action focus on the 3 key elements of knowing, seeing, and responding to child sexual abuse. 5 days of action teaches us all to respond quickly to prevent and intervene in child sexual abuse. Now, therefore, I, Erskine Oglesby Jr., Chairman of the Chattanooga City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of April as Child Abuse Prevention Month in the city of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and encourage everyone who cares about the well-being of children to wear blue on Wednesday, April 24, 2019, in support of National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Present this to you and to the YMCA. Thank you so much for all you do, particularly in protecting the children, not only of our city, our state, but our nation.
Thank you.
So would you like to say a few words?
Just a few very quick words.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman Oglesby, and thank you, City Council. I would like to encourage everybody, City Council, everyone present, and even those watching at home, to go to the YMCA website, ymcachattanooga.org, watch the 1-minute video that's on the homepage, and learn the 3 things that you can do to help protect children. Know, understand what to look for. If you see something, respond. So thank you all very much. Keep children safe.
Thank you. And once again, thank you, YMCA, for helping us make a healthier community through all the programs that you do that inspire us both emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So continue the good work. Now, Madam Clerk, we have no ordinances on final reading, so now we will proceed to ordinance on first reading. 6A, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 7315 Tyner Road and 7445 Lee Highway, more particularly described herein from R1 residential zone to C2 convenience commercial zone, subject to certain conditions.
Councilwoman Burrs, followed by Councilman Ledford. Hit your button again, please. There
Yeah?
you go.
Okay. The people met in the community. We postponed this. They've met. Everything is in agreement that I know of. I do want the conditions read into the record, please.
Sure. It's approved, C2, subject to the following 6 conditions. 1, vehicular access to the subject property from Tyner Road only. 2, a site obscuring fence in addition to a type B landscaping buffer shall be required along the west and north property lines abutting residential uses. Hours of operation limited between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. Dumpsters allowed on the property with trash pickup between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. 5, it shall be for a restaurant and office use only. And 6, no outdoor amplified speakers.
That's what you're agreed to, right, Mr. Smolderman? And you all are in agreement as well, sir? Yes? I move approval.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposes nay. Motion carries. Now we'll move on to resolutions. Madam Clerk, let's read 7A, please.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a memorandum of understanding and substantially the form attached with River City Company for non-exclusive rights to sponsor events at Miller Park up to $50,000 per year for a period of 40 years in exchange for raising funds for the renovation of Miller Park.
What's your pleasure, council? It's been moved and properly second. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposes nay. Motion carries. 7B, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Economic and Community Development to apply for and, if awarded, accept an Experience Matters grant from Cities of Service for an amount not to exceed $25,000.
Councilman Byrd. It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Coonrod. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposes nay. Motion carries. C, please.
A resolution approving short-term vacation rental application number 19 STVR 00014 for property located at 514 Crutzen Street.
What's your pleasure? Oh, is the applicant here? Is there any opposition? What's your pleasure? What? Oh, okay. Okay, let's have a presentation, sir.
Well, I think this is the second time they've been in front of us in the last 4 months. I would just have a question.
Oh, there you go.
Earlier, they had not passed any of their inspections. Have they passed all their inspections now?
They have not, as far as I've been made aware. They had some standing by that they were hesitant to complete until they had an assurance of being able to be permitted.
Well, they're probably going to apply again tomorrow, so I move to deny.
It's been moved and properly second to deny. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposes nay. Motion carries. D, please.
A resolution approving short-term vacation rental application number 19 STVR 00011 for property located at 1601 East 13th Street.
Is the applicant present? Is there any opposition? Councilman Byrd.
I talked to the neighborhood and several people concerning this property and got some concerning issues that came back to me. So on that, I moved to deny.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded by Councilman Gilbert. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposes nay. Motion carries. 7E, please, Madam Clerk.
A resolution authorizing the City Finance Department to renew the contract with Nationwide Recovery Service for 1 year to provide collection agency services for the City of Chattanooga.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Move approval.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposes nay. Motion carries. F, please.
A resolution authorizing the Chief Human Resources Officer, Beverly Moultrie, to enter into an agreement with Industrial Organizational Solutions, IO Solutions, for the purpose of administration of police sergeant, police lieutenant, and police captain promotional testing for an amount not to exceed $100,120.
What's your pleasure? Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded by Councilman Gilbert. All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposes nay. Motion carries. G, please.
A resolution adopting the White Oak Mountain Area Plan, Area 12.
Councilman Ledford, followed by Councilwoman Burrs.
Thank you, Chairman. This has been a very long plan, John. You want to give us real brief summary? Most of us are very familiar with this, but
Again, most of this is in the county, about 90% of it's in the county. The only areas that are in the city are in the Summit area and a portion in the Ooltewah where you have Cambridge Square. It's already been adopted by Planning Commission in the county, so this is just basically because those small portions, we would ask for the council support as well, but it's been widely supported by the community, and it just will be used as a guide for rezoning requests that come before you.
thank you, John. And this does touch parts of District 4 and District 6, and we have reviewed it, and I think we're ready to make a motion, so I move to approve.
Okay. It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Burrs. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposes nay. Motion carries. H, please.
A resolution authorizing approval to Tally Construction relating to contract number W13001-201, purchase order number 520532 for final pay estimate 6 for an increased amount of $35,399.40.
Councilwoman Burrs. Councilman Gilbert. Okay, it's been moved and properly second. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposes nay. Motion carries. I, please.
A resolution authorizing the approval of change order number 2 for Jacobs Engineering Group relative to contract number W17006-101, program management for consent decree implementation, a consent decree project for the renewal of year 3 of the 5-year program in the amount of $2,396,272.62 for a revised contract amount of $6,462,785.62.
Councilman Mitchell.
Move approval.
It's been moved and properly second. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposes nay. Motion carries. J, please.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Hamilton County relative to the court's community service program for fiscal year 2019 through 2020 between the city of Chattanooga and Hamilton County for an amount not to exceed $60,000.
Councilman Mitchell.
Move approval.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilman Ledford. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposes nay. Motion carries. Now we'll move on to purchases. Good evening.
For your consideration tonight, our first item appears to be an overlap with the resolution that was just approved for the Finance Department, so we will withdraw the item for Nationwide Recovery Services. Next, we have for the Department of Youth and Family Development, the extension of the blanket contract for summer meal program to be awarded to YMCA of Metropolitan Chattanooga in an estimated annual amount of $226,000. Next, we have the increase to the collective authorized expenditures for service repairs on all medium and heavy-duty vehicles, which are currently awarded to First Chattanooga Truck Center, Inc., Second MHC Kenworth DBA Tennessee Kenworth, Inc., and Third Lee Smith, Inc., and the revised total estimated annual amount will be $750,000. Next, we have, on behalf of the Public Works Department, support for City Works System to be awarded to KCI Technologies, an estimated total of $92,460. Next, we have a new blanket contract for grounds maintenance for Group 1 Waste Resources Plant, to be awarded to Precision Property Maintenance in an estimated annual amount of $45,000. Next, we have two new blanket contracts for mechanical equipment services to be awarded to First H&H Brown, Inc., and Second Acme Industrial Piping, Inc., and a total estimated annual amount of $3.5 million. Next, we have the blanket contract renewal for galvanized steel fitting to be awarded to Piping Supply Company at an estimated annual amount of $25,000. Next, we have the blanket contract renewal for uniforms and textiles rental and laundry service to be awarded to UniFirst Corporation at an estimated annual amount of $300,000. Next, we have the blanket contract renewal for pest control services to be awarded to Kirkland's Pest Control at an estimated annual amount of $45,000. Next, we have the blanket contract renewal for lime kiln dust to be awarded to Mintech Resources, Inc., an estimated annual amount of $400,000. And finally, we have the blanket contract renewal for the Card Access 3000 support services and hardware, to be awarded to Gallagher and Associates, an estimated annual amount of $120,000.
Councilman Gilbert.
Yes, Chair. Is it possible that we can take out PO 548415 and vote on it separately?
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded by Councilman Mitchell. Did you like to have a few words before we? Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. The one that, the very first thing on the item, on the agenda, on the purchase agenda, it does in essence repeat what we just approved, except the purchase agenda has the amount, and we probably wrongly approved it without the amount being on this. So I would like to add it back in.
Okay, to the
E
E.
on the agenda does
Okay.
not put the cost,
okay.
$230,000.
Okay, so we'll just add the cost into E.
Or we can just, she can read it, and then, I think that's a little cleaner, if you would read the first
course.
item.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Our first item is on behalf of the Finance Department, and is the extension of the blanket contract for collection services to be awarded to Nationwide Recovery Service, an estimated annual amount of $230,000.
Excellent. Okay. We have a motion on the floor to remove item number PO 548415. So it's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions? All in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Okay. And then we can have a motion to approve. Okay. Hit you. Councilwoman Kumrai.
Chair, I got a question about the summer meal program. So I want to make sure I'm not getting it confused. Probably a few months, if Coach, if you could help me or somebody, like a couple of months ago, we had approved for like a lump sum of money that was like to get out of the contract or something. I want to make sure I'm not getting too confused. thought we were going a different direction.
The Head Start program is not using the YMCA.
Okay.
That may be what you have reference to. They are not using them at this time going forward, but our summer program still
It's still using them.
is still using them.
Okay, just needed that clarity. Thank you, Cole.
All right.
Are you good, Councilwoman? Okay. And now I'd like to have a motion to approve all the other items other than 548415, which we've just voted on. Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Byrd. All in favor with the sign of aye. Opposers, nay. Motion carries. Okay, thank you. Now we'll move on to other business. Are there any other business the council would like to bring forth? What? Oh, I'm sorry. Right. Okay, let me, hold on. Got you. Okay. You
Yeah.
good? You got the floor.
I need to talk, Ms. Purchasing.
Yes.
On this, have you had any concerns about this company? Have anybody complained about this company before?
No. Off the top of my head, we have questioned the company about its literature, about the nature of its of the substances that it sprays, but that was of our own questioning, so we could become more familiar, but not performance-wise.
Okay. Well, I have some concerns. For several years, I have complained about this company. Washington Hills, it's amazing that you never received this complaint. But in Washington Hills, it's an ongoing problem with roaches constantly. And I complain and complain and complain. I know, as I said, several years, not just a couple of months. And at that time, I said, I hope we don't renew this contract. It got by me on, I think, before, but then I have another issue at Brainerd. Same issue, all over the place. And I think it's other centers that have the same issue. Not all of them, but some of them. The problem I have is that they're not performing the job. And I'm really upset because I'm not the only one complaining about this. In the African American community, there's one basic early voting precinct, and that's at Brainerd Center. The commissioner over that and his workers constantly complain, saying they got greeted every day about the roaches, constantly. That should have been in your file, because that's an outside source constantly complaining to the fact they was going to council, take it away from Brainerd Center because of that. Finally, I think we heard it, and then we started asking this company to come back several times to do the job, and still had an issue. Then we had to take out appliances that we had to pay for and different things, because they was all up in there. And finally, we might have a situation where they're gone, maybe. Still don't know for sure. So I have concerns, again, about giving this person or this group a contract where they're not doing their job. Now, if you deal with pest controls, which I have done before in the past, they'll tell you, when you see one come out during the day, you got a problem. Well, we had a lot coming out during the day, and we have a problem. This company had opportunity to make it good, especially in Washington Hills Center. They didn't do it. 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. I complained. It didn't happen. So I can understand why are we going to actually give another contract. I hope my colleagues agree they shouldn't give another contract to a company that had poor performance. And I'm still disappointed that, especially when an election commission that's over election commission was going to pull this because he complained constantly about the same issue. So, my colleague, I'm pleading to you, I don't think we need to vote on this again. We need to have a spec that would ensure that we don't have a problem like this. Every once in a while, yes, you will have problems, but not a constant problem, not an all-day problem, not an all-year problem. So I'm encouraging everybody to vote against this because this is the issue. Thank you.
Councilwoman Coonrod, you have something you'd like to say? Hit your button. There you go.
I make a motion to deny.
It's been moved and properly second to deny. Any questions? All in favor? Oh, okay, Mr. Henderson.
Bonnie Moore, somebody, so it says on here, this is the renewing of the first option for a 12-month and then one remaining. So is this the company that we have dealt with in the past? Is this another, so this blanket contract, I'm assuming was voted on last year and they had it prior to this?
That's why it's beneficial for us to coordinate prior to this point. We could certainly research that so we have a full picture here. In addition, our office has a standard way of addressing performance issues with suppliers, so this could be quickly addressed and analyzed for any remedial action that is needed immediately. It could be addressed tomorrow.
So that performance appraisal that you're speaking of, what would that look like if, like, it would be a 30-day or a 45-day revisit, and that would come back to council, or what would that look like?
Yes, we basically have 5 different areas that we review when we get feedback about how a vendor is performing. And in this case, we would communicate a summary of that to the vendor and ask it to directly address it with us and commit to, and I would say yes, within 30 days to provide us a summary of any actions taken if it was within the scope of the years that are referenced, if they actually indeed did have the contract the entire time, and a commitment to document the actions that could take in 30 days.
Okay, and then this says for pest control, but does it also include, I guess, trapping wildlife? I know we have a contract with Kirkland for that. I didn't know if that was part of this contract or if that was a different contract altogether.
No, we have we I believe just recently bid a rodent control blanket, so that's outside the scope of this contract.
So I guess my concern, Councilman, I mean, I hear your concern. I haven't had the same experience. I think I would like to hear from other council members before we just flat voted it down, or maybe vote to defer for 30 days so that we could get the performance report and then compare it against that.
And if I could say as well to that, I'm sorry, but there would be a lapse in service. There would not be, if we don't renew this tonight, there would not be pest control for all, this is fire halls, YFD centers. And I don't mean to say that as to put pressure on you, I really don't, because we are more than happy to do what we need to do. I'm just letting you know that we would have to find another way to handle pest control at all of our buildings.
Okay, we have Councilman Gilbert, and then we're going to have Councilwoman Burrs. So, Councilman Gilbert.
Well, to address what Chip said, this is an ongoing problem. Well, if it's one or more centers, it's an ongoing problem. And I have an issue with the evaluation part of it because I did complain about this several times. So the evaluation you get with this pest control, they already know this. I know they know about me complaining because they made comments, but it's an issue. And going 30 days, I was talking about a couple of years. So we discussed this couple of years ago, and they haven't changed. So what make you think they're going to change now?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure as to when you reference, we have
I talked to Mara about this before.
Well, our office has not discussed this with them. This company, when we have asked them for feedback on other issues like I was talking about before, they've been very responsive. So I would recommend reaching out to them.
Well, since Justin come down, Justin, have you not heard this complaint before?
So I have heard your specific complaint about Brainerd last July, and since then we haven't heard any problems with service that they've provided. What I would like to do is offer a solution tonight is to request that you approve this contract, and we will evaluate the contract terms and the existing contract. If there's something there that we need to amend, we would be happy to do that. And we'd be happy to also talk to you about anything that you recommend.
Well,
in this.
I would go along with that, but I won't, because we're talking about years. We're not talking about just one time. Years, especially in Washington Hills, there was an issue. Years. So why would we think all of a sudden this person gonna do a better job, and we complain for years about this? And it's a constant. It's not like it stopped and it got rid of, it never left.
So what I'm asking tonight is for you to recommend, or what we're recommending is approval of this contract, review the contract terms. If there's something that we need to do to amend the contract terms, we'd be happy to bring that back to purchasing and bring it back in front of the council, and I'd be happy to share that with you for any of your input.
Is this the only company that bid it?
No, I think it indicates there were additional bidders, 9 additional.
Well, I think the rest of them will come jump on board if this is denied, because shouldn't be a week elapse. We can vote on something next week if it's for purchasing problems.
I believe.
Because they ain't doing a good job anyway, so 1 week ain't gonna hurt.
Right, I would defer to Bonnie, but this affects 111 locations in the city, so it's every municipal building receives treatment, including all the fire halls, all the YFD centers, the building we're in, and the rest of the City Hall campus. But I would commit to reviewing the contract and reviewing those terms with you, rebidding it if we needed to do that at some point. But as far as I know, this is the only performance issue that I heard. And I understand from YFD Center staff that they did resolve it after that complaint was made. So I'd be happy to revisit with you, but just requesting.
Well, again, I got a question about resolve. They did not resolve it in Washington Hills. I mean, I have said it several years. Is that correct, Mara? Yes, sir. And so they didn't resolve the problem. And my problem is that I've been complaining about this. You knew about this. You had an opportunity to take care of that then.
So I did learn about it. The pest control company responded, and as far as I know, the YFD Center staff were satisfied with their response. And like I said, we'd be happy to relook at the contract terms.
Let me get back to you, okay?
I think the rebidding process is what I would be concerned with, the lapse of time that it would take for us to rebid the contract. Could take several weeks, not just 1 week, and to defer the item, we may experience a lapse in service.
Let me
I don't
hear
have all those details here.
Let me now hear from Councilman Mitchell.
Councilperson Burrs backed away.
Yeah.
Well, I yield. I yield.
Yeah,
to
okay,
council.
excellent, because she went on and went off, but Councilwoman Burrs, you have the floor.
All right. Justin?
Yes, ma'am.
How often, that's a pretty big contract they've got, and they're doing all those 100 and something properties for $45,000?
I believe it's a monthly contract for pest control only. So they visit all 111 sites each month, and then I believe the contract has terms where they will respond if there are additional problems.
And for this once a month, everything they do, they're doing it for $45,000? Is that the total amount for
Yes, ma'am.
this?
I looked through the contract terms earlier. I believe it's about $20 per building, roughly.
$20 per building. So we're supposed to do the lowest and best. Have we been aware of Councilman Gilbert's complaints for all this time?
I was only familiar with the complaint last July. We reached out to the pest control company, and they resolved it according to the YFD staff. So I would have to defer to YFD as to whether or not they resolved it satisfactorily. We didn't hear additional complaints.
Okay. So if we vote to renew it, then we voted to renew it for a year. And I think there might be a better way to do it, Bonnie. Do we have to renew it for a year? Because then we hear we're breaching a contract. Do we have to renew it for a year?
Under the terms of the duration terms as they're stated in the contract are 1 year at a time. So yes, that would be what we.
So why don't we
do.
change it? We're the one that's doing it.
Well, but for consistency's sake, when we awarded it initially, we speak to the renewal terms, but we do, on the flip side, have ways of getting out of a contract in a short amount of time if we need to.
So if we renewed it for a shorter amount of time to make sure we had addressed various folks' concerns up here, is that possible?
I'm not sure that it would be possible to technically renew it for a shorter period of time, but it is possible based on their analysis. If the vendor is not performing correctly, then we have termination procedures that we can implement at that point.
Okay, so let me, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, because I know that we make contracts with people, and then it's a 1 year renewal at our option. Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so we're the ones that hold the purse strings.
It's a mutual decision, but yes.
Okay, so that they could mutually decide they don't want to do this for us anymore till we look at everything, and then we'd be without. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it would take what we are proposing would take less time than it would be to pursue even one of the other bidders.
Okay.
Addressing this with a vendor would be the least amount of
I'm
time.
not prepared to vote for a year renewal. I'm trying to work out some way here that the service can continue during the interim, because I respect what my colleague's been trying to do. So I think there can be a win-win, and we shouldn't be so lockstep. And so what I'm suggesting is that, is there a way to meet the need and still have service in the interim? Is that a possibility?
Yes, absolutely. But and as far as the duration of the term, you can certainly approve whatever you're comfortable with tonight. We can address it with.
That's what I
the city attorney.
thought. That's what I thought. So I don't want to mislead anybody thinking it's a year or nothing. Okay, Mr. Chair, that's it.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Mitchell, thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Who does this analysis of performance?
We have a feedback survey that asks standard questions. The city users answer it, and then we have a staff in our office that addresses it with vendors in that same format.
Okay, and we're up against the wall now. By the way, this is our option right here, right now. So if we want to end this right here, right now, this is the time to do it. And I understand the problem of having to go back and try to figure out what we're going to do now, but this council's job is to do this right here. I really respect your recommendations, but this is our job, right here, right now. And if it's time to end it, it's time to end it, and maybe next time you'll give us an opportunity to end it a month before it's over. And we've been saying that for years and years and years. And I too highly respect Councilman Gilbert. I've worked with him for I'm afraid to say how many years, but I know his love for YFD, what used to be the rec centers, no one tops his love. I think Councilperson Coonrod's getting there. You give her a couple more years and they might have an argument over it. But I'm just saying that I'm gonna back my colleague on this, and I'm ready to end it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Gilbert. Just one more thing. Didn't we have Red Cross in there last year? Did it not pull out because of this situation?
Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I know if you hear the details, but yeah.
Yes, sir. During the flooding, the hurricane events, we did have, Brainerd was used as a shelter, and it was my understanding that that is about the same time that the pest problem was brought to our attention. There was a lot of usage of people in the center during that time, a lot of additional usage, and that is when the pest problem came to our attention. So
Yeah, because the bugs was already there. Red Cross brought their people there, and they complaining about can't sleep with them roaches, and they moved away. So again, this is an absolute problem with this pest control.
the center was used for the entire time that it was needed by Red Cross, and there were complaints from our staff about the pest problem after the center was used.
Well, my understanding was before, because I was there.
Okay.
Before, they was already there, because we already had a vote, we had pre-voting for the election commission before they came. It was the issue then, and y'all didn't get the information, because you can ask the election commission himself, he'll tell you how bad it was.
Okay.
Because he had issues with it.
I understand. I was there. You called me, and I went, and we helped take care of that situation afterwards. We called Kirkland's again, and they came, and it got better, and then it came again, and then we shut down the kitchen, and we replaced all of the appliances, and as far as we know, it is in good shape now, but it did take us a while to abate the problem.
Ready to vote. Okay.
Can I call the question, Mr. Chair?
Yes. Okay. What's your pleasure? I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Okay, motion second. Okay, any questions? Further? All in favor of denial by the sign of aye? Aye. Opposed, nay? Motion carries. Denied. On item number, just for the record, PO 548415. Okay. Are there any other business council would like to share? Then we move on to committee reports. Council, what? I'm sorry, go ahead. Councilwoman Coonrod?
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you to the City of Chattanooga for sponsoring a wonderful event, Black Friday. And it was just great information about economic empowerment and with the African American community. Hopefully it will be something that can be continuing on in the near future, but it was a great event. But I want to invite you all out for Connecting Chattanooga with Chess. It's going to be May the 11th from 10 o'clock a.m. to 3 o'clock p.m. at Chattanooga. Well, now it's Rise at 401 MLK Boulevard. It's a family-friendly atmosphere. We want to make sure that kids are learning to play chess. If you play chess and you want to help us teach kids to play chess, please come out and support this event. It's very important and it's fun. And then also, I passed out the information as well. It's going to be a spring job fair that's going to be held April the 25th, Thursday, from 11 to 2 at the Kingdom Center. If you know anybody, family, friends, neighbors, church members, whomever you know that may need a job, please share this information. This is an opportunity for employment. Share it on your social media sites as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Gilbert.
I just want to echo my colleague that it was a good event at Miller Park. There was quite a few people there. It was cold, and there's still a lot of people there. And it was a good event, peaceful. Everybody enjoyed themselves. I wish I had more vendors there because I like to eat. But other than that, it was pretty good.
Good. Okay, excellent. Any other business? Now we move on to committee reports. Councilwoman Burris.
Yes, sir. We begin.
Hit the contraption. You got it.
Okay, we begin the budget process in a few weeks. We will be getting the budget on the 14th. We will be getting it at the same time the public gets it. I have the privilege of chairing the Budget and Finance Committee, and we will start having education sessions the following week. They're open to the public. It is not question and answer time. It is for us to get educated so that we can better serve our constituents. We will have a public hearing at the very end of the process, and of course, the final vote is up to us. So please stay alert. Please go over the budget. We will be starting on the 7th. We won't have gotten the budget, but we will be looking at what went into making the budget. If you remember, the budget belongs to the administration to present, us to approve or not, or massage as we see fit. So please be very much a part of this process. Please let your representatives know about it. My goal is to keep everything as inclusive as possible. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Byrd.
Thank you, Chair. Today at 1:30, we had an amazing presentation from C&E concerning affordable housing. Next week on the 30th, we are going to have another presentation from C&E and the Mayor's Council for Women at 1:30 concerning predatory lending. And we also had a presentation from Open Spaces discussing the paddle boat ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Coonrod. Councilman Gilbert. Councilman Henderson. Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Chairman. We did not have a planning and zoning special meeting today, but we will discuss next week at 1:30 on our agenda, short-term vacation rental ordinance changes. I want to make sure everyone is aware of that, as you may have thought that was this afternoon. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next week, we will have a Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next week, we will also have a Public Safety Committee meeting, and we will be discussing the Police Advisory Review Committee legislation.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. Okay, now at this time, we will have recognition of persons wishing to address the council on non-agenda items. Mr. Attorney, would you please read the rules?
Yes, sir. The council has adopted rules. At the end of each council business meeting, the chair can recognize members of the public that wish to address the council, and these are your rules. Each speaker wishing to address the council needs to come up to the microphone that's provided for that purpose. No person shall have more than 3 minutes to speak. The speaker can address the council only upon matters within their legislative and quasi-judicial authority. And the speaker cannot use vulgar or obscene language, nor use the floor to personally attack or personally denigrate others. Please address your comments only to the council as a body as a whole, not to individual members. And please be aware that the chair can't recognize any person, neighborhood association, or organization who has spoken more than twice in any 30-day time period. Anyone wishing to speak can come forward. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You may start, ma'am.
Okay. Last week, I went to see Caleb because I was upset
I was gonna go bankrupt if I couldn't continue my Airbnb. So I come up with this idea. Caleb let me know that what to do to be in compliance is I just had to rent to 30-day vacationers. And I thought, wow, 30-day vacationers, nobody's hardly going to be there. But if I can operate and have the same amount of renters and cars and people, but the only way to be in compliance is to a 30-day, even though it's the same thing, I came up with this motion. The motion is it blocks the existing STVR with a list ongoing of, with the exception of the ongoing complaints. Those people would not be put in the exemption. They were disturbing the peace, parking issues, whatever. But the exemption would be made for the people renting the Airbnbs with no complaints outside the favored districts of 1, 2, 7, and 8, and 9. It goes like this. The motion that all existing, I'm going to call it Airbnbs because I can't think this letters, with a series of complaints or their home associations have future agreements to block the rentals, will not be allowed to operate in the outside communities or any communities. Those SRVs or those Airbnbs will not be allowed to have exemptions for the current running that are quietly outside the overlay. They shall be exempt from having to accept only 30-day reservations. Because I understand from Caleb, if you're exempt from 30-day rentals, that you can do shorter stays, then basically it's okay to still continue your Airbnb. So this means an exemption for the Airbnbs operating outside, and that way there's no unfairness. This motion will prevent wrecking and ruining lives by the loss of jobs and incomes and families, bankrupting residences, and ruining livelihoods would be prevented. This will prevent people from becoming homeless as a result of forcing people to shut down their Airbnbs. I would continue to operate my home as well, and I won't be forced to bankruptcy. My subdivision, Kings Point, is one of the oldest subdivisions in Chattanooga. The commissioners made an exemption because the farm animals was their livelihood. So they made the exemption when they took animals out of the city. The animals are still there today. And this motion would keep all residents happy. The ones that don't want Airbnbs next to their home, they would have complaints, list of them, and they wouldn't be allowed to exist. And then the people that are operating quietly and happy in the other zones outside the overlay would be allowed to continue to operate. So I think it would be a good idea.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Caleb? Yeah. Just a comment. Has nothing to do with what my colleagues are going to do relative to voting. I'm a process person. I have a real problem with code enforcement telling people how to get around code. I'm not sure we should be advising people that if you want to make it, then just rent for 30 days and then you don't fall under the code. Apparently, there were several discussions with people, and I don't know the ins and outs of that, but I do know that we got to keep enforcement and advising how to go around the code separate. So I'm sure you had really good reasons for that, but I can't think of one right now.
This is not going around the code. Short term is defined as 30 days or less. Anything over 30 days is considered a long-term rental. Therefore, they're two different followings, two different ordinances, two different laws, two different everything.
Sure.
If anybody wants to, outside the overlay, operate short-term, i.e. less than 30 days, then they have to abide by the ordinance that was voted upon and passed. That ordinance states that you cannot operate outside the overlay for less than 30 days unless you are zoned R3 or R4 prior to October 1, 2017. That is what I am advising.
Okay.
That is the law.
Thank you for giving me that lesson in law. I'm talking about form, and we may want to discuss that a little later on. but I appreciate the legal lesson.
Okay, Councilwoman, okay. Ma'am, if you please, can we get your name, please? I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anybody else like to address the council? Please, this is your opportunity. Please state your name.
Michael Gilliland, 1816 Ivy Street. I'm here as Vice President of Orchard Knob Neighborhood Association, representing the concerns of our neighborhood regarding the short-term vacation rental ordinance that evidently got pushed up next week. And I just want to say I'm very thankful. The deliberations and voting tonight really show that you all are taking the concerns of residents really seriously around this issue, and I want to thank you for that. We do still have some concerns about the ordinance language as we've seen it so far, especially as it relates to commercial entities and the changes in language, non-owner occupied units, as well as the formal opposition parameters and neighborhood notification. We also still do have concerns about density, and our neighborhood association, we really appreciate and love the history of our neighborhood, and it's deeply concerning to us that, especially now, the increased focus on investment, specifically in our oldest residential blocks, and on Ivy, multiple STVRs on Ivy Street, upcoming votes for Vine Street and Oak Street in the 1900 and 2000 blocks. And we're very aware that every home that's being bought up by short-term vacation rentals is a home that is not going to be used by either a renter or a homeowner, not for a resident. And we're worried, but we understand that this is still part of a process. And we would just ask that maybe a little bit more time be given for deliberation. And our neighborhood is totally in District 8, and so I would ask personally that we can set up a time with Councilman Byrd to go over this before an actual vote comes to pass. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lisa Brown, and I own short-term vacation rentals in the MLK neighborhood. And 2 years ago, I worked alongside many short-term vacation owners, members of neighborhoods in the city to provide input for the current ordinance. The planning process for that ordinance included many community meetings and smaller informational workshops. The process during that time was very transparent, with members from all sides of the conversations seated at the table. I spoke with you during that time, and I had great maps, if you remember that. Yesterday, I was made aware of the proposed changes to the ordinance that were originally scheduled to be read to you tonight. Members of the short-term vacation rental community, those that this will affect most from the changes or proposed changes, have not been allowed to participate in this proposed change. The community is aware that the current ordinance has several challenges, and I'm sure that if we work together, we could streamline the process to make it more lawful and fair for all those involved. I'm here to ask that before you begin reading the proposed changes, you open dialogue with the short-term vacation committee or short-term vacation community, as well as residents in the neighborhood, to create a transparent process and review of the modifications that the city feels are needed. In the event that process is not open to the short-term vacation rental community, I'd like to point out two things about the proposed ordinance. One proposes changes, the changes denies commercial entities from owning short-term vacation rentals in R1 and R2. I would like to say that many of the business owners take these businesses seriously, and they are LLCs, they are corporations. They have insurance that not only protect themselves, but also the welfare of the public. So I hope that you will disregard that request for change. And in Section 2, that you have to be a member of Hamilton County. We have already an ordinance that says you live within a 2-hour radius of the short-term vacation rental district. And we are a regional city. We are. We have many members that live across the border. I live across the county border, and I'm 20 minutes from my short-term vacation rental. If I lived in the farthest reaches of the county, I'd be 40 minutes. So maybe we leave that it is a radius around the city. And then one last thing. Yesterday, Airbnb announced that it paid the state of Tennessee $22.4 million in tax revenue.
Thank you. Please.
My name is Bob Hanson. I'm a resident on Long Street. And I just wanted to bring in another perspective to the short-term vacation rentals. I have, and my family have been visiting Chattanooga since before the aquarium was built. And for the longest time, the only thing we knew of Chattanooga after the aquarium was built was that area. The only way that we discovered the rest of Chattanooga, which is a big place, was through short-term vacation rentals. With the short-term vacation rentals, we were able to get into the neighborhoods. We were able to get into Highland Park, into St. Elmo, into the South Side, into the North Shore, and see these other neighborhoods, see what they had to offer. I've stayed in dozens and dozens of short-term vacation rentals in this city since 2003. My family and I fell in love with the city so much that we're now residents. I bought a condo on Long Street, or my first condo was on Cowart Street. I bought that one, renovated it, lived there for a while, and some friends of mine who visited here with me decided they wanted a condo in Chattanooga. So I sold them my condo, where I was also the condo association president, and I bought another one on Long Street. So now I brought more people to Chattanooga. My condo on Long Street is there, and we currently, I'm the president there again. We currently have about 4 short-term vacation rentals in our building. One is right beside me, one is right above me. I live on the ground floor. Never any issues whatsoever, never. I have more issues in my building with long-term renters by far than I do with short-term vacation renters. We have many issues, and this is true in both of the condo buildings that I was president. Long-term renters cause more issues than the short-term vacation rentals, but yet anybody can rent long-term to anybody with very little rules, regulations. Now, I understand the need to have a process. I just hope that when you guys are going through this process, that you will keep in mind that the short-term vacation rentals bring a very important thing to the city. And we don't want to hamstring it so much that people start abandoning the short-term vacation rentals because it's too much of a hassle anymore. My current plan is I have a house under contract that I'm going to purchase on 10th Street. That's going to be my retirement home. And my plan is tomorrow to apply for a short-term vacation rental for my condo on Long Street, because I'm going to be moving June 28th to my house on 10th Street. And in 2016, there was no rules, no regulations for short-term vacation rentals. In October, you came up with some rules that on the surface, they look like they're fine. And I'm asking that you just consider what the short-term vacation rentals bring to the city, and that with this new ordinance, that you don't hamstring them to the point that it gets impossible for people to follow the rules. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council. My name is Jeff Meldal. I'm from District 7. I want to disagree with all of the points made by the previous 2 speakers, except for one, which is that we need a longer time for community input on short-term vacation rentals. Those of us who are merely residents of these communities in the overlay have tried to be as active as we can in influencing the conversation on this. We don't have adequate time to keep after it all the time, and I know we've dropped the ball a few times on keeping the conversation going. But I feel like this, if this is going to have its first reading next week, it sounds like both sides of the question, both those who want a more neighborhood-oriented proposal that seeks to keep more people in long-term residence in these neighborhoods, and people who want to make it easier to rent STVRs want more time to speak with y'all, to get a chance to put their ideas forward, and then have y'all come to a decision based on what the majority of your constituents want. I don't know, I know this is just a comment period, but I hope we can get together afterward with our various council people, and maybe a motion could be made next week to put this reading off some amount of time so that we can have a longer discussion about this. It sounds like nobody's really been satisfied with the level of democracy so far. My specific concerns about the ordinance are that it does nothing to control density of short-term vacation rentals. That is a chief concern. Had recently went down to New Orleans for a wedding, and in New Orleans they have entire blocks that are nothing but short-term vacation rentals, and it's devastating to the neighborhood fabric of a city. I don't have a problem with them existing, but if there's no checks on density, some of us may end up living in basically streets with entirely transient neighbors who don't contribute to the community more than their taxes from the STVRs. They're not real neighbors. They're not looking out for us. They don't know us. They don't have our backs. They don't know our kids and our pets. And if there are no checks on this, what is to stop that happening? In some neighborhoods, we're already witnessing the bad effects of this, and I just want the council to be aware that there's a lot of conversation to be had on this, and please give us an opportunity to have that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kathleen Nolte. I also live in District 7, and I also want to thank you for your time and energy in allowing this new ordinance to be created. I know that you're acknowledging that this is a problem. Lots of people have different opinions and concerns about this. So again, I want to echo if there is a possibility to create a community dialogue where we can go through this in sufficient amount of time, I hope that you all would consider doing that. I wanted to raise a couple additional concerns of mine that have not been talked about so far. A long while back, I asked about what the state legislation actually does to impact Chattanooga and what our ability is to have restrictions. I'm not sure that I have received an answer about that, and I'm not sure if it's out there, and I'm just unaware, but I wanted to bring that back up and say that I don't know how that state legislation actually impacts our ability to make any changes. And my other question is about enforcement. I wonder what kinds of rules we can create that are then actually enforceable. And so for me as a resident, I would like to know that that is being considered within the language of the ordinance so that anything that we're creating is actually enforceable and workable for everyone. Finally, I just want to state that I am sad that this is creating residents who are pitted against each other. What I hope for is an ordinance that actually is fair for everybody, addresses people's concerns, and makes a path forward where residents are not in competition or against one another. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Mr. President.
My name is Stan Settles. I know some of you. For the others, I look forward to working with you soon. As Councilman Ledford said earlier, thank you for the kind words. I am the new student body president at UTC. And today I come up with the idea of possibility of the electric scooters coming to Chattanooga. Things like Bird and Lime and the other companies like that. So from what I've seen, going from whether it be someone that needs a vehicle from point A to point B, I know we got a lot of food deserts on our end kind of the city. Maybe that can help a student who enjoys exploring this great city in their free time, a tourist who would like to ride around Coolidge Park before crossing the walking bridge to go get some ice cream. Scooters have the possibility to kind of connect our city, to kind of open up our city for what it is. It's beautiful. and this allows an opportunity to get back out in it. Aside from the benefits of scooters in Chattanooga, my focus this evening is to shed light on some of the questions that I've been seeing across the country where these scooters have kind of came in. And throughout the month, throughout the issues being proposed and discussed, the use of technology with these issues being discussed, these companies have now developed the ability to track the scooters, allow the scooters to only be in certain areas of the city or neighborhoods or wherever that may be, and allow the governing body to not allow them to park or be left in certain areas. That's a big one. Because some places you've seen they've been left around on the sidewalks and things like that, and it creates a big hassle. But there have been ordinances in other cities that have allowed that you'll get fined if you leave them in certain areas. There are several companies who have scooters today, and most of my experience comes through a company called Lyft, which actually already operates in Chattanooga. A lot of us college students use it as a rideshare program, along with Uber and things like that, and Lyft has developed a scooter program with that. In Washington, D.C., scooters can be taken all over the city. However, in our nation's capital, the most beautiful areas, places like the National Mall, scooters cannot be left unattended. If a rider is in one, they can get off the scooter, but cannot end their ride until outside of the no park area. And I think that addresses a huge concern to make sure we're not leaving them in front of a big group of restaurants or something like that, creating a big hassle on the sidewalks, them getting strode down in the road, things like that. So I think that's a big ability that could be used to help out with the process in Chattanooga. While at the same time, I think these scooters will be awesome to kind of go along with the tourism that we already have here and to keep connecting the city together, because I think that's what brings people to Chattanooga. I'm from Middle Tennessee, but I consider myself a Chattanoogan now. It's a beautiful city, and I think this keeps kind of bringing our tourism back downtown. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to working with all of y'all soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Peggy Petrie, and I reside at 559 East Main Street. Our VRBO is at 1607 Mitchell Avenue. Thank you for revisiting this and looking at it, and it clearly shows that you have streamlined this process, which looks on the onset really good. There were some areas that I'm just going to say ditto to everything they said and Lisa said. We really do want the dialogue, and because I'm too a citizen who has a neighborhood, and that matters to me. So the areas that I noticed were omitted from the last one was that there used to be a limitation, and there's no longer a limitation to how many rentals someone can own. But now we have this commercial entity involved that we're saying they can't. And it seems to me like you're trying to make something happen here. And I can guess what it is or not. But what I think is what you're aiming for is good, but it seems like it's going to be hurting individuals or people who, like, we have this doesn't even affect our VRBO, so it's not my skin in the game right now. But just the fact that we're a general partnership, then all of a sudden, but we own the house in our names, it gets all confusing. And I don't think that's what you're attempting to do, but you may be attempting to limit outside people coming in and buying up blocks, which I think is a grand idea to limit that. The other areas that in here that I have concern, or not really concern, but more of a query for y'all if we don't get to meet, is in the short term, on page 2, section A, the different full-time, part-time. It's very confusing because on the onset you said they're going to be living there during the duration, and then it says they're allowed to be gone during the duration for the part-time. That kind of is confusing to some of us. And the other thing is you took out any kind of process that if you are, well, let me just tell you what page that was on. Any process to a court hearing or whatever you want to call it, no appeal process, which was on page 7 of the proposed ordinance. And that just seems a little bit risky in that there might be a legitimate reason to have that. I also understand that if you've broken a law or broken an ordinance, then yes, you've broken it. There's nothing really to discuss there. But it seemed like in some cases you might want to have something. So anyways, I went through this section by section, and I just really think that it would behoove all of us to sit down. We're so close. We worked so hard on this for all those years. And I would say that the neighborhoods weren't necessarily at the table that beginning in that time. And I think they have a voice that needs to come forward, but I think this time we do it with both groups, and so that we have the best solution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Petrie, Peggy's husband, and yes, we own a vacation rental. I'm going to cut a couple subjects. On the scooter thing, on a national news network, they ran a story about cities that have them and increased head, arm, and leg injuries. I've seen them in downtown Atlanta. It is a mess because they're everywhere and they're on the ground. So as you look at the aspect of the injury part, if you do this, I don't have any skin in that game, but look at that. The thing that I do want to talk about, I grew up in the construction trade. My dad was a builder. I'm still kind of a builder. I'm a sculptor. He was a developer in California. My wife's youngest brother is a developer in Florida. Here in Chattanooga, of course, we have permit fees when we build new houses, and we are in a building boom. We have to admit it. From what I understand, it's $2,300 to $2,500 for that. Both in California in the 70s and in South Florida currently, they also add $5,000 to $20,000 in impact fees that are earmarked specifically for infrastructure. And I know a lot of you have concerns about potholes, the roads, fixing that, water drainage, and an antiquated downtown stormwater system. So I hope that you guys would look at this and figure out a way to do impact fees. So as she's doing her budget and having all of her meetings on them, we can figure out a way to fix those things. And impact fees is the way to do it. Thank you.
Council, what's your pleasure? We are adjourned. Oh, man, you had echoes?
Yeah, it's got a good sound to it.